Dear friends, welcome to my home, where many interesting and wonderful things happening each day. My name is Lisa Grail, and today's video will be intended for those who want to start the practicing of Kundalini Yoga. And it will also be interesting for those who have been in practice for a long time. I will share my experience of almost everyday practicing for 3 years. I will debunk some myths and give some scientific facts explaining the miracle of Kundalini Yoga, so that they no longer write comments here that chanting mantra is a call to the devil, and so on. Kundalini Yoga, like any other tool for purification, transformation of our body and soul, our psyche, must be used wisely, otherwise you can easily harm yourself with any tool. As we say in Russia, matches are not the toys for children. No wonder there are some rules in practice of Kundalini Yoga that I will voice you right now. Firstly, we practice in the morning. The sooner the better. The morning practice of Kundalini Sadhana begins at 4 a.m., 3:45. But if there is no possibility, then as soon as you wake up, we practice on empty stomach, barefoot in white cloths, as a sign of purity and light that protects us from ignorance, just from those guys who write about demons without knowledge of subject. At the beginning of practice, we chant initiating Adi mantra 3 times, Ong Namo Gurudev Namo, as well as a protective mantra to keep our practice safe. Tradition came to us from the golden chain of teachers and the main teacher, Yogi Bhajan. In the evenings, I advise you to practice meditations, and mainly for brain, for the prevention of diseases such as Alzheimer, for example, and also chanting mantras. What is a mantra? This is a repetition of a sacred text that has a certain vibration frequency and therefore has a healing effect. It's also a great way to calm your mind from chaotic thoughts, to stay in the space of neutral mind without thoughts. Kundalini Yoga has its own mantras, and we are chanting them during practicing. A standard class consists of chanting the Adi mantra, warm-up, a set of exercises called Kriya, and meditation. And the class ends with chanting mantra Sat Nam, meaning truth is my name. And now, what is Kundalini? While Kundalini is most often associated with a snake, the term itself in Sanskrit stands for that which is coiled. So Kundalini doesn't mean a snake, but that which is coiled. People personalize it and say it's a snake. Kundalini energy rises through energy channels called nadi. According to the Indian sources, there are about 72,000 of nadi in our body, and the main is called Sushumna. It's located along the spine. There are also Ida and Pingala channels. Ida is nadi energy channel that starts in the left nostril, then goes to the crown of the head and down to the beginning of the spine. Pingala, this nadi starts in the right nostril, goes through the crown of the head to the lowest point of the spine. And everything would be fine, but energy blocks and clamps often stand on the way to raising our energy up. So we are working on removing these blocks with the help of a set of exercises and different breathing practices. I have plenty of playlists on channel for solving any request, heal yourself of emotional problems or bodily, or work out each chakra. And the main breathing practice in Kundalini Yoga is breath of fire, which, as they say, burns our karma and aligns our body with vibrations of cosmos. It's performed through the nose. During exhalation, the navel is pulled in. During inhalation, the navel relaxes. Everything is very simple, as if we're sniffing air. Fast, light, shallow breathing, which can be both deeper and shallow, depending on how you feel. So we are pumping air with our navel and breathing through the nose. With exhalation, navel is pulled in. With inhalation returns back to its normal position. Some people awaken this universal power, Kundalini energy, when they are spiritually ready, even though they might have never heard of yoga, meditation, or other Eastern spiritual practices. Some of them had hyper-stressful situation, child's birth. Also, it happens during orgasm sometimes, more often for women. Sometimes when people are going through some kind of critical illness. I'm convinced that Kundalini awakening is equal spiritual awakening. That may cure without practicing at all, and even out of depression and mind's discourse, as it happened to Eckhart Tolle, who awakened from the thought, if I can't live with myself anymore, then there are two me. Who is real me from these two? Everyone has his own path. All instruments are good on the way if they are used carefully. In my practicing, I also have food and sleep deprivation, fasting, techniques like attention on attention, and all these things led me to initial spiritual awakening this year, right on 31st of December. I will share some scientific facts if you don't mind, and then share my experience of 3 years. What does scientific research of Kundalini Yoga tell us? What explains the beneficial effect of Kundalini Yoga on physical body, endocrine, central nervous systems, and mental health? Gerhard Eggetsberger, an Austrian biochemist, psychologist, and the technical director of the Institute of Biocybernetics, has researched the brain processes during sports. In the course of his research, Eggetsberger also studied the pituitary gland, the gland associated in yoga with higher energy centers, and in the scientific world, responsible for the production of endorphins. Endorphins are neurotransmitters found in the brain. They are formed from substance produced by pituitary gland, beta-lipotrophin. It's believed that endorphins control the activity of the endocrine glands in the human's body, and a large number of endorphins can lead a person into the state of euphoria, which is why they called endorphins hormones of happiness or hormones of joy. Although, in fact, euphoria is caused by much more complex processes and interaction of several neurotransmitters. It's possible to initiate the release of endorphins, which means to get feeling of pleasure in different ways: food, sex, physical activities, and the most simple and fast way that was found by modern man is unfortunately alcohol and drugs. Meanwhile, in addition to the endorphin mechanism in the human's body, there is another mechanism for obtaining satisfaction, Gamkergic, the fundamental difference of which is that the endorphin mechanism causes addiction, while the Gamkergic mechanism releases addiction. These two mechanisms suppress each other. It means while one works, the other is off. The activation of the Gamkergic mechanism is carried out by changing the principles of nutrition, as well as through the use of various health-improving techniques. In fact, it's possible to activate the Gamkergic mechanism using any of ancient methods: yoga, tai chi, jiva, and so on. The only difference is in the speed and degree of its activation. Depending on practice, some practices give faster and more visual result, others take longer. Eggetsberger's research has proven that the practice of Kundalini Yoga gives a very rapid activation of Gamkergic mechanism. Performing even the smallest simple complex of Kundalini Yoga allows to activate the Gamkergic mechanism instantly, which leads to person's feeling of pleasure, satisfaction, in terms of a level comparable to the satisfaction obtained when using alcohol or drugs. This explains the therapeutic effect of Kundalini Yoga in the treatment of addictions. A person thus finds an alternative to overeating, alcohol, drugs, which allows him to enjoy the same degree. So, the need for other stimulants disappears. Also, it's noted that during practice, a number of other physiological changes occur in the body. One of them is change in the way the nervous system functions, which can be easily detected using a ballistocardiograph. This is especially evident during meditations. As an example, research by David Schnahoff-Kals confirms Kundalini Yoga meditation has a psychotherapeutic effect. and another researcher, Harma Singh Khalsa, found that Kirtan-Kriya, one of the Kundalini Yoga meditations, has beneficial effect on brain metabolism and improves mental performance. There is also data from experiments by Russian specialists who made research of Sat Kriya influence on the human brain. At the beginning of the study, all 16 persons were recorded in a state of extreme brain tension and stress. The tension of glucose-oxygen metabolism was 6 times higher than normal. Severe oxygen starvation of the brain and severe acidosis, high degree of brain acidification as a result of accumulation of lactic acid were also observed. Then, the test subjects performed Sat Kriya for 3 minutes and relaxed for another 3 minutes. Measurements after practice has shown that the state of their brain was almost close to the reference. Also, in 2015, a study was published by Dr. Farah Jindani and her colleagues, the results of which showed that participants of 8-week mental rehabilitation program using Kundalini Yoga significantly elevated the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, improved night sleep, showed a positive mood, mental stability, and decreased anxiety compared to the focus group not participating in the program. How does Kundalini Yoga and meditation work for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and addiction? Studies of people with PTSD and addictions, food, alcohol, tobacco, have found decreased level of neurotransmitter called Gamma-aminobutyric acid. It interacts with nerve cells in the brain and is responsible for creating a sense of calmness. Gamma-aminobutyric acid is thought to play a role in regulating various types of addictive behavior. It was supposed that raising this acid level may help calm people with PTSD as well as to reduce addiction. And during this study, it turned out that just 1 hour of one Kundalini Yoga class can increase the level of gamma-aminobutyric acid by 27%. That is, even if we remove all the mysticism from the practice, we can conclude that Kundalini Yoga has a beneficial effect on health. Kundalini Yoga is also a universal type of yoga, since it's suitable for almost everyone, including even children and old men, since the practitioner minimizes the risk of injury. There are always alternatives to performing some more complex asanas. There are only some restrictions on breathing practices. And now my experience. In my first year of practice, I watched my mental patterns programs clean up. I watched how the feeling of guilt, shame, feeling that I'm not worthy of something, that I owe something to someone, the fear of imposing myself, fear of evaluation, suffering for unrequited love, for my father's death, aggression, resentment, accumulated over the lifetime, simply went away. As you understand, this is not only mental healing but also healing of organs in which all these emotions were accumulated and poisoning my body. The digestive system and the liver were particularly affected. Friends, you have no idea what came out of me. This is the same as cleaning the intestines, but the dirt was emotional. There were streams of tears, aggression, screams, as if someone called the Inquisitor every time I did yoga. And all this came out in the first year. The last time I screamed from pain was during the Kriya that awaits you in September, so get ready. In the second year, my body transformed, my psyche finally stabilized. There were no more severe apathetic states. If there was a slight apathy or negative thoughts attack, I went to my mat right away. I'm prone to depression and had a rather gloomy perception of life since childhood. And if you're also predisposed to such things, for example, bipolar disorder as well, then Kundalini Yoga is your tool for 100%. Kundalini Yoga practicing gives us another transformations. For example, on the third year, alcohol left my life completely by itself. Although I was drinking only glass of dry red wine or 2 maximum, it was this year that alcohol became disgusting for me and absolutely not needed. For me at this moment, alcohol is compared to poison. My diet also naturally corrected. In the last year I ate everything I wanted except meat, but very seemly things, and in little quantities: buckwheat, cheese, vegetables, fruits, and more recently, about 3 months ago, sometimes I ate red fish. And now I mainly eat vegetables, nuts, and raw vegan food. After I cured of Corona, I naturally switched to the light types of nutrition. Thank you, Corona. In addition, only pleasant smells have returned to me. I still don't feel unpleasant smells. Maybe this is for best. Everything around is fragrant and smells very tasty. Also, this summer, during the phenomena of my city, St. Petersburg, White Nights, very beautiful phenomenon, I started practicing sleep deprivation. And at this moment, this is my favorite instrument. However, I won't say right away that if your body is squeezed with tension and stress, if you have a lot of annoying factors in your life and you're not in balance, sleep deprivation is not for you. On the contrary, sleep is the only thing that saves you from going crazy. For me, sleeping 3-4 hours a day is much more pleasant than 6-8 hours. It's enough for me at this moment. All these processes occur naturally without violence, which I especially like. I can say that sleep deprivation removes all fears, expands consciousness, cuts off Groundhog Day, and even thoughts materialize faster. I will share more information when there are specific results confirmed in my experience. Again, if you want to start practicing, do it very carefully and don't drive the car if you decide not to sleep. If I ever stop eating, breathing, and sleeping completely, I will inform you right away. And I know there are such people, and there are many of them all over the world. In the meantime, experiments continue. And the most exciting, important thing is, of course, spiritual awakening. I have already told many times that this is something incredible for me. The world is perceived in a completely different way. It seems that nothing has changed, but everything has changed at the same time. Nothing annoys, even though mental programs are still being cleaned out, but 90% of the time I'm very calm. Even if I can answer sharply, I don't feel aggression or irritation inside. Very often I'm thrown into a magic state of thoughtlessness and pure perception, mainly when I walk, because during work the brain is busy with tasks and it's difficult to be in pure perception at the same time. So at this moment, not everything has been completely cleaned out. There was no deeper experience, as we call it, samadhi yet, but I just continue to direct my attention to the present moment, and I know that sooner or later this separation will occur. For what? I don't know. It seems to me that we don't order anything that happens to us, just as we cannot control everything. I follow the inner impulses, the response within me. I would be glad to be an ordinary person, to want to get married or have children like most women, but it was never interesting to me. I consider myself just a human, not a woman, not a man. I am, and that's enough. Though I know that I look like a rather attractive woman and I have a lot of attention from men usually, but still I'm not thinking about these family issues. They are not first priority for me at this moment. All I want to do is to investigate love, life, and love, because I am love. It's interesting for me to explore, to make music. I like states of consciousness, not through a muddy glass, but a clear, pure perception. In these states, there is beauty. There is nowhere to rush. You start enjoying simple things. Any person is interesting and beautiful. Just observe the thoughts and don't get involved in them, and everything will happen by itself. There is nothing complicated here. We should learn how to manage our attention, asking ourselves every time what is happening, where am I, what I'm thinking, and just watch. And the real world will open before you. On a biological level, although I haven't studied my brain, this is most likely the activation of pineal gland and also the balancing of cerebral hemispheres. This is a chemical laboratory in the brain that I have set up for myself with the help of Kundalini Yoga, and I just did it every day, missed some days of course, but not so many. Someday I will create methodology for this beautiful transition, although I understand that each process is very individual. The biggest bonus is probably self-confidence and heightened intuition, when you know for sure what to do and what not. This is what every yogi is striving for, connection with the higher self. I guess that's all for today, guys. Write your questions on the video. I want to practice English more. If they give me green card, finally I will move to USA and English will become my second language. Also, everyone who wants my guidance, you can hire me as a mentor for 40 days and we will work on your body and psyche together. It's really interesting for me to work with people personally. I can also create your personal career based on the information received from you and on the analysis of human body design chart. Write me on Instagram or email. You can also take my courses, all links under the video, and support my channel by clicking join. In this case, you will have access to the Kriyas that are invisible to everyone but sponsors. I wish you a pleasant journey of self-development, self-healing, and a permanent feeling of joy. Sat Nam. Stay true and kind. The rest things, never mind. Bye.